This is the Tessellation Diary.
Alright, hello, welcome to a new video. If you're new here, my name is Neo, this is my channel, Nova Created. Today I have a story for you about how I filled this book with 50 drawings in a matter of 7 days. Inside this book there are what's known as tessellation patterns, which simply put are patterns that when put next to each other create an infinitely repeating pattern, and without any more explaining or talking, we'll just jump right into the time lapse. So this project all started when I received this book from an acquaintance of the past. And this person had known me to always be carrying around this small leather book that I would often be drawing patterns in. So Arthur, if you're watching this, thank you for the book. I quite like the handmade paper and I appreciate the thoughtfulness in the gift. For some reason, I've had a long-standing fascination for filling books full of patterns. And of course my first response to receiving a blank book like this was that I should fill this one full of patterns as well. And when I started this project initially, I thought that it would just be a cool, kind of fun experiment to do on the side of my other bigger projects. But once I had got done 2 pencil sketches and 2 outlines for the drawings, I realized this would actually make a pretty cool video idea. At the beginning, when I was just doing this project for experimentation reasons, I first thought that I would just do 1 drawing a day for 50 days. But when I decided to make it into a video idea, I definitely thought I should make it a bit more interesting, so that's why I changed it to doing 50 drawings in 7 days. So if you look down in the bottom corners of the video, you'll see the drawing number. You'll also see what day it is that I'm working on the drawing. So coming up with what I wanted to put in the book, I decided on tessellation patterns because I find tessellation patterns very interesting, and although I've used them in my work in the past, I've never really done a full catalog of them. So I thought this would be a good chance to work out a bunch of new designs and learn about tessellation patterns in the process. So as I started working on this, it started to kind of feel like a bit of a journal entry exercise, but instead of writing, I was just drawing geometry for 7 days. So that's how the idea of the title, The Tessellation Diary, came to me, and that's pretty well the whole story of how the project came to be. So now that you're caught up on the backstory of this project, I'll go into details about what the process is like to do one of these drawings. So I'm starting with a grid and pencil, and then followed by inking the pattern, and after that, the coloring. This book is a completely experimental process. I'm not looking at any reference points or reference patterns for my drawing. So I pretty well just start with a single square, then I decide to put certain lines within the square. Depending on how the lines are placed, they'll create a certain form, and then I replicate that form in all the other squares, and that's a very simple way to create a tessellation pattern. So I decided to put in a bit more editing magic for some of the drawing process, and that is just partially to cut down time of filming. Also, it's just pretty fun to play with. So here's me coloring this drawing by magic, and for my next drawing, I'm just going to wave my hand and the entire drawing will be complete. So something I find really fascinating about exploring geometry in this way is that when you sit down in front of a grid, there's some very obvious ways to start dividing the grid, and these are what I like to call the obvious forms. And these forms, more often than not, are very familiar patterns, and they've been used in lots of different contexts all around the world. And that's why you may notice that some of the patterns are very familiar. So at this point in the project, I decided I would go down to the beach because it's just a very nice day out, and I know there's going to be a fantastic sunset to watch tonight. So I brought my book down and my drawing stuff, and I thought I would just film a bit of footage here. As I started to point my camera towards the sun, I noticed this really cool lens flare, and so now I'm just moving my camera around and I'm just looking at it because I think it's fascinating. Before I lose the light completely, I decided I should work on a pattern here at the beach. So here's a little time lapse of me doing a pencil sketch for one of the patterns here. just coming home from the beach, and I'm going to jump into a bunch more drawing. As you can see in the lower corners, it's day 5 and I'm only 23 drawings in, so that means I'm going to have to do quite a bit more work and put in quite a lot more hours in the next 2 days. So this pattern here is one of my favorite patterns ever, and it is not my creation. It is something that I did study and learn from. It's known as a Celtic step pattern. It's one of the base patterns for Celtic art. I've looked quite a bit into the base forms and the base techniques of Celtic art, and yeah, I would say that I've gleaned a wealth of experience from looking at some of those old books, and that's actually how I got into using grids in the first place. So there are a few patterns in this book that I'm sure you can maybe point out that are not tessellation patterns. There's about 3 of them. This one I'm drawing now is one of them. And usually when that happens, I just lean into the randomness of the pattern and I just end up making it an odd one out of the whole book. So I decided to branch off a bit into a new pattern exploration, and I really like pixels as well, so now I'm seeing what I can do with tessellation patterns and pixels. So when I was doing the editing, all of the footage that I'm getting is actually reversed, and I kind of like the look of that, so I thought I would put a few of those scenes in just to change the camera angle. So this pattern is definitely one of the ones that I've seen used in different contexts, in places like temple art and other forms of ancient art. And again, I'm not referencing it, but it's just happened to emerge anyways. And this pattern is one of the patterns that I just don't even know how it came to be. It's such a funny and weird little pattern, but you know, that's what this process is all about, is just exploring and experimenting. Alright, so it's day 7, I'm on the 47th pattern, and yeah, just a few more patterns left, and I will have completed this entire book. So here it is, the 50th pattern, and these are the last couple strokes on the last pattern, so here we are. I will be putting a bit of a flip through and a detailed up-close shot of a few of my favorite patterns, so stay tuned for that. And alright, so that completes the book. Now it's time for a detailed flip through where I can show you some up close shots of my favorite patterns and show you every single pattern in the book. So I thought you might be interested in how the workflow went over the course of the 7 days. Day 1 I did 6 drawings, day 2 I did 3, day 3 I really slacked and I only did 1 drawing, so I knew I'd have to make up for that. Day 4 I did 9 drawings, day 5 I did 11, Day 6 I did 13 drawings, which took me 9 hours, and day 7 I did 7 drawings. So I'd just like to take a moment to thank all the musicians who make their work available for use in videos like these. The music makes such a huge difference to the video. You can find all their names and links to their work in the description below. And although this isn't an advertisement or a paid sponsorship, I'd like to say I get all my music from upbeat.io. It's a really great platform for YouTube creators. They have a huge selection of really excellent music, and this is me showing appreciation for being able to use the platform. So on average, each pattern took me about 30 minutes to an hour to complete. So in this book, there's 50 of them. I cut out a bit of the footage for some of the portions of the drawing process, but altogether there's 30 hours of footage. And then I did 10 extra hours off camera, and I spent about 4 hours on the title page painting. So for painting the book, drawing all the drawings, and coloring them, I spent about 45 hours in total. And in case you're interested to know how long producing one of these videos takes me, I spent well over 40 hours doing the voiceover and edit for this. And on top of the book, which was about 45 hours, that puts the total amount of hours spent on this whole project at about 80 hours. So I hope you enjoy the content, and if you could drop a like, share the video, and consider subscribing, I would super appreciate that. So here it is. These are the last 2 patterns of the book, and funny enough, these last 2 patterns are actually 2 of my favorite. I really like where the direction was going in these last ones. I was using a lot more curved lines and playing with circles a lot more, and I'm really happy with where it was going. I'll have to branch out and experiment more with these types of patterns in the future. Alright, so that about sums it up. 50 drawings in 7 days. Thank you for following along on this project, and I'll see you all on the next one.
The Tessellation Diary.